Do you feel like you're being pulled in 10 different directions all at the same time while trying to learn photography? Like when you learn one thing, it leads you onto something else you didn't know and then something else. And you're wandering down all these different paths, overwhelmed with all the information that is out there. If so, this is the podcast episode for you, because in it, I'm going to be talking about how to stay focused on your own photography journey so that you can stop wandering aimlessly around the internet, picking up random tips and tricks, learning lots, but not actually moving forward and getting better photos. So stay tuned. Hey there, I'm Audrey-Anne, founder of Live Snap Love, and I'm on a mission to help photographers just like you grow their photography skills quickly and in a way that feels simple and easy so you can shorten the learning curve and get photos you love faster. I created this Photography Made Simple podcast to share simple, actionable techniques, helpful insights, and practical advice on all things photography. So if you're itching to take your photos to the next level, whatever that level may be, you're in the perfect place. So let's get started. Hello there, welcome back to another episode of the Photography Made Simple podcast. Today we are diving into a topic that I feel really quite strongly about, and that is focusing on your own photography journey and trying not to be distracted by all the random information that is out there. Now, when I first started learning photography, and for a long while beyond that, I would spend probably the majority of my time looking at what other photographers were doing. I would search interviews for my favorite photographers and try and see what lenses they used or the tricks that they might share with me. I would scour different blogs for different pieces of information. I'd go into different forums or Facebook groups. I would ask for help on something that I was struggling with. I would ask them why something wasn't working and what they recommended. And I would get lots of information from different sources. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, well, what's the problem with that? I do that too. Here's the thing. We all do that. We all, when we first start out, because we don't know enough and we can't get our photos to look the way that we want them to, we go out in search of what we need to do. But the problem is, when you do it this way, the advice you're getting is not going to be tailored to where you currently are in your photography journey. And that's when the advice you're given can actually do more harm than good. Many times it can send you completely down the wrong path for where you are right now because you're trying to skip ahead without having laid any of the foundational steps first. Now, as you know, I find it easier to explain with examples, so let me give you some from my own photography journey so you can see what I'm talking about and when this might happen so you can watch out for it and see if this is something that you do. So let's say that I would see in an interview from one of my favorite photographers, and they would say that finding your photography style was incredibly important, as that is when you would start to produce work that felt like yours and resonated with you and other people. So at that point, I read that, I would go rush in and get straight to work trying to figure out my photography style. And then I'd slowly come to the realization that actually, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't even have the basics that would help me create images of a certain style. So I didn't know about light, or at least not enough about it. I didn't really know enough about composition. I really didn't know how to edit my photos beyond putting on a preset. So finding my photography style shouldn't even have been crossing my mind at that point. I didn't have the necessary skills to do it. So even if I had managed to figure out what my photography style was, spoiler alert, I didn't. It was far too early in my photography journey. I didn't have the required skills to then go out and be able to show it. Another example, in a forum, I mentioned that I was having problems with color. My images were coming out looking a little wonky. And someone recommended calibrating my monitor. So off I went, started researching all about calibrating your monitor, got into the weeds about which calibration tool was best and how you did it. And before I know it, I'm buying a monitor calibration tool from Amazon. But actually what I needed at that point was to learn about white balance, the foundational step of learning about color. I was way far in the future, so calibration, yeah, great to learn about. You should learn about calibration, but not until you've really mastered the art of being able to see color correctly. And that starts by making sure you have your white balance correct. So again, I'm trying to skip ahead, do step 10 stuff when I don't even have step 1 stuff down. And another one was back button focus. Again, I think it was in a Facebook group, that back button focus would be the answer to the problems I was having with focus. So I'd run off to go and try that. And again, I didn't have all the more fundamental and, quite frankly, vastly more important aspects of focus down. And then I would be wondering why the heck it wasn't being this massive game changer that everyone said it was going to be. So as a result, all that happened was that I ended up with a lot of information rattling around in my head, but nothing really connected. And that's because I had, a bit of step 1 here, a bit of step 3 there, a bit of step 10 over there, but I was missing great big chunks of information that actually ties everything together. And that's when I ended up feeling like I was failing and that, photography was just something that I was never going to get the hang of. So if I could give you one bit of advice, it would be this. Focus on your own photography path, no one else's. So again, to go back to those examples, if you're just getting started in photography, then you don't need to worry about finding your photography style just yet. Worry about exposure, about focus, about light, about composition, about editing, and then become a master at those things before you even start to try and figure out how you can put it all together into your signature style. Or if you are asking whether you should toggle your focus points or use focus recompose, or you don't know about the other elements that go into focus, or worse, you're sitting there right now thinking, what elements would that be then? Then using something like back button focus will not be the answer to your focus problems. Remember, back button focus is nothing more than assigning a different button on your camera to activate focus. So without those other foundational elements in place, it's not going to help you very much. So when taking advice from anywhere or anyone, whether that be your favorite photographer, in a Facebook group, on a blog, or even on a podcast episode much like this one, I want you to keep in mind where you are in your photography journey and where they are in theirs. Every single person is at different stages along their own photography learning path. And I know that many people can forget what it's actually like way back there at the beginning of your photography journey when everything is new and there's everything to learn. And even though they are giving you advice, from a really good place, they are giving you tips and advice that are better suited to you when you're a little further along in your photography journey. So a lot of the time, it's not that it's wrong or bad advice, although sometimes it can be. A lot of the time, it was given with love and the best of intentions, but it's just not right advice for where you are right now. So I'm going to try and make this episode a little bit more actionable. It's a little bit difficult, but I'll try. So let's look at how you can focus on your own photography journey. Now, believe me, I totally get how difficult it is to focus on your own photography journey when you are surrounded and overwhelmed with information. We live in a world where there has never been so much easy access to information from places like blogs, Facebook groups, forums, Instagram, Pinterest, podcasts, you name it, we've got access to it. Yet all that happens is we feel overwhelmed and bombarded from every single corner. And what's more, all the free information in the world won't help a jot if you're not aware of what you need to know now and what you don't. So the best advice I can give you is to try your very, very, very best to focus. Try to block out the noise of the online world and focus on where you are right now and only focus on the next step in your journey. Try to filter out the currently useless information so that you only focus on that next step. Not 10 steps ahead, because that's what I happen to be posting about on the blog that week, or what the podcast episode happens to be about, or someone has linked to something from a Facebook group, or you saw a comment or a tip somewhere. Not that. Don't get sidetracked because that's what someone else happens to be talking about. Focus only on the step after you. Because I can tell you this, if you keep getting waylaid by different things, it's going to take you a heck of a lot longer to learn photography than it should do. Worse, you'll discover what happened to me. You have all that information in your head, but because you've missed out on all that little nuggets of information that make the whole lot come together and actually make sense, you're going to feel like you're still not getting it, but can't figure out why. And that's definitely what happened to me. And I know that this happens to so many other people. Remember, I've taught photography now to around 3,000 students, and a lot of them came with exactly the same problems, having that information, but not being able to, actually get the photographs they want. And all they needed was something that laid it out for them step by step. So the shortcut to great photographs is not a set of hidden tricks, is not getting that quick tip from Instagram that's going to make everything look amazing. It's about learning the steps in a logical and linked path. It's about taking the time to truly learn your craft. And the surprising thing is, when you commit to that, instead of endlessly searching for something that will help you get there faster or cheaper, you'll find that your photography path actually shrinks and you will get there in half the time. I absolutely promise that that is the case. So here's how I can help you stay on your own photography lane and only focus in the step in front of you. And that is by giving you my free photography learning blueprint. So in this guide, I give you what you need to learn in photography laid out for you step by step in the order that you need to learn it. And that order is quite important because if, for example, you try to learn about light before you've learned about exposure and your camera settings for capturing light, you're going to find it really difficult and it's not going to come out the way that you want it to. So once you go and get that guide, you'll find it at livesnaplove.com/blueprint, or you'll find it at the show notes for this episode at livesnaplove.com/11. Go ahead and download that. And when you've downloaded it, I also send you a link to watch my free class. Make sure you watch that too, because that's going to go into the main elements that you need to be focusing on right now and exactly what you can leave at this point in your photography journey. And as I say, when you do that, honestly, you will get there so much quicker. And then you can move on to the fun stuff of learning photography. Okay, that is it for me this week. I hope that you have found this helpful. I hope that you feel inspired to really knuckle down and focus just on the next step in front of you so that you can get photos that you love quicker and with less frustration. So I will see you again next week, same time, same place. Bye for now. So that wraps up this week's episode of Photography Made Simple. I'll be back at the same time, same place next week. But if you want more, head on over to livesnaplove.com/podcast, where you can find all the resources and the downloads mentioned, plus a whole lot more. Finally, if you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe, and that way you won't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next week.